Muslim Spain housed a fairly rich and complex society, incorporating the traditions of Islam and the ruling class, along with a significant population and tradition, heritage of Christian people and Christian art, and also a significant number of Jews. One of whom was Yehuda Halevi, the poet who grew up grew up in Spain, lived largely under Muslim rule, housed primarily, I believe, in the south in Granada. He learned to write in Arabic. He composed mostly in Arabic. He adopted many of the Muslim influenced aesthetics of his time, and he did so as a kind of liminal figure in the society, always a little bit on the outside. Jews had that experience in Spain for quite some time, but still managed to contribute remarkably to the culture, which was primarily a very rich one, as it was struggling with all these different forces. You had this very spicy and tangy stew of culture, if you will, swirling around one another and swapping ideas, different ideas about philosophy and art and culture in general. The Muslims, of course, had the primary role of preserving a lot of the Western influences and Greek influences primarily for generations in the early Middle Ages. So it became a very conducive atmosphere to producing art. Conflict makes art. And you see this in Halevi. One of his shortest and most intriguing little lyrics is to Ibn al-Mul'alim, a very indicative little voice of desire, desperation, anxiety, and aspiration in a troubling time. Gently, my hard-hearted, slender one, be gentle with me, and I'll bow before you. I've ravished you only in looking. My heart is pure, but not my eyes. They'd gather from your features the roses and lilies mingled there. I'd lift the fire from your cheeks to put out fire with fire, and then when I was thirsty, it's there I'd look for water. I'd savor the lip that glows like ruby, like coals in the tongues of my jaws. My life hangs by scarlet threads. My death is now concealed in dusk. I find that nights have no end, where once no dark divided my days. For time then was clay in my hands, and fortune the potter's wheel. Intriguing. The sense of vulnerability is manifest in every line. The sense of being somewhat bewildered in the world, and just driven by a kind of divine ecstasy, but utterly subjugated by it. There is a kind of submission throughout. Submission is in the second line. I'll bow before you. A sense of submission to the beloved, to the desired. But submission is significantly also the meaning of Islam. So there is a sense of bowing before an idol of God, an idol of worship. There is a dual aspect going on here: the religious and the physical, the spiritual and the physical. That is evident in every line as well. I mean, my heart is pure, but not my eyes. The eyes are a little lusty, but his heart is his sense of worship is, he's saying, no, that's fine. that is properly oriented towards God. And here you can see, but the division between my heart is pure, devoted to God, my eyes, my physical being are something else. My eyes can lust, my heart never will. But also the physicalized emotion in this. I lift the fire from your cheeks to put out fire with fire, and then when I was thirsty, it's there I'd look for water. That sense of extremes, the fire and the water, the vulnerability of one to the other. But also that passion that is swelling up with every line. The this sense at the end of the fortune and chance of fortune, the potter's wheel, the sense of vulnerability of happenstance, the sense of not really being in control, the sense again of submission, of being in exile, of being a stranger in a strange land, of not having a home, of not having any power at all. Now, this is the role certainly of a demographic minority in a culture, in any culture. It is also, however, the position that we see so many medieval philosophers and artists. This sense of looking around and feeling at once so small and so vulnerable, but also the ability to conceive of how grand God is, of how grand creation is, of how grand life and beauty is, even if we cannot quite access this, even if we are not quite on that level, even if we are always, always, always separated from it. The fact that we can conceive it, that platonic ideal, that gives meaning to all the suffering. That gives meaning to the pain and the agony and the uncertainty. The fact that you can imagine something perfect.